Okay, well, welcome to another episode of Rewiring Health. I am very excited to be joined by Lois Hollis today. She is a leader in the field of Shameguilt, which is such a profound topic to talk about, especially with eating disorders, pain, health. I mean, every aspect of life. So thank you so much for joining me, Lois.
Oh, thank you for the invite. And once I healed, people came to me and wanted to know what I was doing. And I told them, and they healed too. And someone said, well, that's what you should be doing. I said, really? Mm-hmm. So that's how it happened.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so many stories like that. It's like you go through these really tough struggles in life, and then you take that as your gift to help others, which I think is so profound, and no one can really relate to it until you go through something like that. So
exactly.
I love that. Do you mind? Oh, go ahead.
And there's a reason. Once you heal, you have that healing energy for that particular situation. And then you're not only in your words, but your energy is now bestowed upon others for that as well. So there's a reason why you feel, or all of us feel, and you too, you know, all of us feel that way, because we not only know the words, but the healing energy we're able to gift to others.
Yeah, absolutely. There's that level of understanding that you have that no one else has unless you've gone through something really tough. So I completely agree. And energy really is everything. So I mean, we'll definitely dive into that, because I'm a true believer in that as well, is that we exude energy, we absorb energy, and we have to be aware of the energy that is around us. For sure. As far as your healing journey, do you mind just sharing a little bit of your story of how you got to this part in your life where you're helping others with shame guilt?
Okay. I really didn't analyze or look at my life until somewhere in my 50s. Mm-hmm. I was just on automatic, and automatic means I got through school, and I was very excited when I got a letter from the University of Pennsylvania. It's an Ivy League school. And it said, you're accepted. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm not stupid, because I was raised as a stupid child. In fact, I was called an idiot child because I had dyslexia. And in I was born in 43. So like 1950, they didn't talk about dyslexia. They didn't talk about anything. You're just an idiot child. And I subsequently had remembered that my parents were called into the school when I was in first grade, and they were told that your child is an idiot child. And we as a Catholic school will keep her in school, but she has to stay at the back of the class, and we will never test her because we know she's unteachable.
Oh my gosh.
And so I remember sitting in front of the class, because they did that then, and you had to read. And so I was reading, and the words would not stop moving. That's called Irlen syndrome, IRLEN, which I didn't know until I wrote my book. And that's when you have many brain injuries, and the words will not stop because the brain can't recognize it properly because of the distortion in the brain. And I had about 5 or 6 brain traumas. So I'm very creative. My mind won't stop until I get the resolution, curse or wonder. Anyway, so all these words are moving. And I asked, it was a Catholic teacher, how do you stop the words from moving? I got slapped in the face and sent back. So the next day, they gave me the book again, like, how dare you? So in my creative mind, I turned the book around upside down, because, you know, if you can't read it one way, why not the other? And then another slap in the face. And that's when I was discounted as an idiot child, making fun of the teacher. And it was great because they left me alone, because I had so many traumas that I even had I guess you would call it a near-death experience, because my neck was broken. C1, T1, 2, and 3 were broken, and you don't live with that. So somewhere or another, I had the access to another realm. So that's why I've been able to do different things because I have access to the internet and the internet in the sky.
Yeah.
So now I understood my life more because during my nursing career, I was asked to help with a kidney dialysis unit. And that was one of the first kidney hemodialysis units in the United States. So I helped develop the machines and the principles and the protocol and the techniques of having people on hemodialysis who had kidney function. This is way before kidney transplantation.
Yeah.
And then we brought it in home dialysis as well. So I was like in the home too. And then I started the American Nephrology Nurses and Technician Association so that we could standardize care. And you know what? That's still in that's in 1971, and that's still in existence today. Wow. I know, so that makes me feel good.
Yeah, anyway, testament to your
and then I started I was medically trained since I'm 12. I was in nursing assistant, what do you call them, nurses' aides. They used to call them pinkies at that point. Some people don't remember that, but anyway, I've always been in the nursing, helping health field. So nursing was like, what else is there in life? So I was just medically orientated, and I always wanted to be healthy. And I always wanted other people to be healthy. That's just what I've always wanted. And maybe it was because I had so many injuries. It could be, who knows? Yeah. But anyway, that's my tag. I always wanted to be healthy. That was, when people say, oh, how much money you want? I said, nothing's about money. It's only about health. And, in 40s and 50s, that was not the lingo. Success and money was everything. So I was really, I had my own world. And somewhere in my 50s, I got extremely depressed. And that's after 3 miscarriages, and I lost 3 babies. And then God gave me 3 more. And, so it was, and divorce and all the other problems that happens. And I kept on moving with all the brain injuries and everything. And everything worked. And all of a sudden, when they were in college, I collapsed. Into severe depression, like I was suicidal.
Oh, wow.
Like I felt the world be better without me. And people say, how can that be? I'm going, well, when you're so guilt-ridden, you feel that the best thing you can do for the earth is to leave.
Yeah.
And people can relate to that because it's true.
Yeah.
And at that point, I called my friend, who's a psychiatrist. Good idea. Good idea. So he helped me to get out of that place. And I did do some emotional counseling and all, but it just wasn't happy, Kelly. I wasn't suicidal, but I was depressed, unhappy, and
Yeah.
And I had so many physical problems. I had broken jaws, many brain traumas. I couldn't even go outside during the day. Oh, wow. That's how bad the brain traumas were. I could only go food shopping at night.
Oh my gosh.
So and people that have brain traumas can understand that. You have brain sensitivity, you have light sensitivity. You can't, it hurts. It hurts. So I was definitely marooned in the house because unless it was dark outside. And I had crippling scoliosis from my mother. My chest was all caved in. And from my father, I had a leaky mitral valve. My kidney function was deteriorating because I took drugs for the 30 years of migraines. So yeah, I was dying.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
55. And it wasn't like,
oh, I don't know if it froze on your end or my end.
and you have,
there we go. Sorry, it froze for a second. There we go.
So given all those injuries, it's logical you're not going to live past another year or 2. But I didn't feel like I was dying, which is it just, I don't know. It just was, I just didn't find the right doctor yet. That was my problem. The problem wasn't dying. The problem was I didn't find the right person.
Yeah.
One of my, and every problem, you get the solution before the problem. There's always, and you just don't know where it is. Like it may not be in your immediate family or friends, but it may be in their family or friends. So one of my friends invited me to visit Sedona, and that's where I found the doctor that was incredible healer. And he helped guide my body back. I mean, it took years. Eventually we married. It's a long story, but it's a very nice story. But after healing all the physical problems, I had to heal the emotional.
Yeah.
And you know that.
It's a big one.
Someone said, Lois, what do you do about shame? This is in 1999, about 2000. I go, what an odd word.
Yeah.
What an odd word. I don't know. So I went to the library and I could only find one book, and it said John Bradshaw's book, Shame is a Sickness of the Soul. I went, so my mind keeps going and go. Eventually, long story, I learned that shame guilt is an energy from the words we say to ourselves and other people say to us, and it impacts us.
Yeah.
And once I figured that out, I healed, Kelly, within like months.
Wow.
And I healed with the interpersonal parts, like, the inner critic and the depression part, the anger part. So I went to film school to make a video on how our personality talks to us.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And then, but people didn't want to hear it. Oh, we don't talk about shame. We don't talk about it. It doesn't exist. And I'm going, you can call yourself a happiness coach or a joyful coach, but you don't call yourself a shame guilt coach. That's really bad. That's in bad taste. And we don't want you to talk about that, but please talk about happiness. And I'm going, well, you'll never have happiness unless you kick shame guilt out. They go, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. So I refuse to change my mind. And the pandemic happened and everybody sat home and they went, oh, I do have that shame guilt stuff. So there it started.
Yeah.
So I would like to share some wisdoms of why I'm different. And the people that are talking about shame's bad, guilt's good. Now, when you do that, you separate your mind. You have to think of a coin, like a nickel. Shame is on the head and guilt's on the tails, but it's still a nickel. Now, why can I say that? Because shame is on the unconscious mind and guilt's on the conscious mind. But it's still the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's why we have not been able to deal with it, because people say shame's bad, guilt's good. We need guilt to be moral. No, we don't. We just do things because we do things. No sin, no guilt. And guilt makes more shame. Shame makes more guilt. Guilt makes more shame. It makes more guilt.
Yeah.
So people say, oh, I got rid of the guilt, but not the, well, you will never get rid of guilt. I tell never until you get rid of the shame causing the guilt.
Yeah. I mean, your story is just so profound, from where you started and then all the different seasons of your life and how it brought you to this realization, and it literally manifested physically into your health of what you're dealing with.
I walk, I talk, I even rollerblade now because my
oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah, I'm planning my 80th birthday party at the roller ring.
That is awesome. Wow.
Yeah, and I can do it.
What a testament to healing. For anyone listening, listen to this. It does not matter what your age is, what you've been through, the healing is possible. So that is
it doesn't matter, because 80, I'm like I feel the best I ever felt at 80. Oh my
gosh, that is amazing.
And I got to thank my grandson for teaching me how to rollerblade.
Oh, that is awesome. I love that.
He said, no other adult will go with me, but you will. And of course. So,
that is awesome. And again, just talking about how until you dealt with the shame guilt, you didn't achieve full healing. I can
No.
completely get behind that. I experienced that myself. I went through an eating disorder, and then I never really dealt with the emotions from it. And then I experienced chronic pain. And until I started realizing what the emotional trauma of that had caused me and dealt with it, that's when I actually was able to achieve healing. So I am right there with you with that.
Yeah, and trauma, oh, I'm reliving the trauma. Oh, just change your mindset. It didn't happen, whatever, rephrase it. Shame, guilt, energy is glue. It makes you stick the trauma in your brain until I'm not talking about releasing the trauma. I'm talking about releasing the shame, guilt that's holding the trauma in your brain.
Yeah.
It's glue. Think of shame, guilt as glue or paste or whatever word you want to use. And it sticks it together, and you won't get rid of it no matter how many meditations or hypnosis or affirm. You just have to get rid of shame, guilt, energy.
Yeah.
So that's where I wanted to go on that. No, sorry about that.
Oh, you're fine.
So we have the love energy. And what does love give us, Kat?
Gives us more energy. It gives us, fulfillment.
Love, fulfillment,
connection,
sharing, compassion, confidence.
Yeah.
We can do it. I mean, we don't even doubt it. We just go ahead and do it. And we're joyful. And we tap dance and we rollerblade and we do all these wonderful things.
Like you're explorative when you feel loved.
Yeah. That's love energy.
Yeah.
Giving us what, 50, 20 emotions. Now, on the other side, we have shame, guilt energy. And that's the negative side of us. Shame, guilt is an energy that comes to us from the words we say to ourselves and the words other people put upon us. But it's an energy. So what does your computer do when you get a computer virus?
I mean,
it goes to wacko, right?
Yeah, the whole software goes corrupt. Yeah.
And your computer will go differently than mine, even though we have the same virus.
Right.
So it's hard to pin it down how it affects you. And that's the problem. Shame, guilt affects each person differently, so they don't have it. It's just that they have a different understanding of it because we're all different. Even though we're all alike, we're all very different. You are so stupid. Why did you do that dumb thing? That energy comes to us like a bullet, shooting a bullet to you. And what does that do? It turns your positive emotions to negative ones. See, each emotion has a positive and a negative orientation. Compassion turns to depression. Intuition turns to anxiety. Passion turns to anger. I was like so excited because I didn't have to go to therapy for anxiety and anger and depression and procrastination and not good enough. I just had to get rid of the shame, guilt energy causing the negativity within me. Wow.
Yeah.
I was so excited.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I completely agree with how much that infiltrates every aspect of life. I mean, you can't live a fulfilling life if you're feeling guilty and shameful and shame guilt in everything you experience, because like you said, anything positive then gets turned into a negative.
No matter what it is. Your brain goes into confusion.
Yeah.
And your emotions turn to negative. And we are energy people. We have meridian lines. And the shame, guilt energy affects them and turns our liver and our colon and our brain and all our organs into a dysfunctional energy, not a positive energy. Spiritually, it blocks us from our spirit. Like you're talking on the phone and God's talking or spirit's talking and it's static on the line. It's a negative energy that distorts or changes positive to negative, if it's words, if it's actions. I think you really understand that. And
Absolutely. I mean, I can definitely relate to a lot what you're saying, because I feel like when I was going through the eating disorder, I was such a perfectionist. And no matter how many times I would do something right and win, be successful, I never focused on anything that was good. I only focused on I could have done better. Or,
Because you're trained that way.
yeah.
That it's not our fault.
Mhm.
You know, I'm telling people it's not our fault.
Mhm.
I have a very good book I found at the thrift store for $1.
Mhm.
How to Be a Jewish Mother.
Mhm.
And in this book that was written in 1964, it states how to guilt your children into obedience.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it actually tells you making guilt work.
Wow.
Underlining all techniques is the ability to plant, cultivate, and harvest guilt. Control guilt, and you control the child. It's written.
Mm. Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm hoping that things have changed since then, at least a little bit.
Well,
That, but or
but
maybe it's
still,
just
that's how your
transformed.
grandmother was trained. That's how your mother. So
Yeah.
it isn't your fault. And it's
Mhm.
not your mother's fault.
Yeah. So,
Culture did this. And what does a religion do? My goodness, religious guilt is like huge.
mm,
You know, God won't love you. You
the
got to forgive
subconscious
yourself.
messages.
Yeah, you can forgive yourself, but you got to get rid of the shame and guilt,
Mhm.
because forgiveness will only get you a certain way.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's nice,
Mhm.
but it's not going to get rid of the shame guilt.
Mhm.
You got to, it's a thing.
Mhm.
Some people call it the shame guilt leech.
Mhm.
Some
Yeah.
people call it the shame guilt invader.
Mhm. Yeah.
Some people call it the evil wizard messing with my mind. I mean, you can call it anything you want. Please do let me know, because
Yeah.
I have a list of what podcast hosts are calling shame guilt now,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's it, and that's why I became a filmmaker,
Mhm.
so I could
Yeah.
make you see it
Mhm.
acting within us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Do you find that, like, of the people you've worked with, do you find a certain type of person or personality traits, or who do you feel like is more susceptible to experiencing the shame guilt that hinders them in life?
Um, well, I feel that people who are sensitive
Mm,
tend to have a more of a reaction to the shame guilt energy than someone who's more dense.
mhm,
No judgment here. It's just different kinds of people.
mhm. Yeah.
Now, shame guilt is like a leech.
Mhm,
It needs your light energy to survive.
mhm,
That's why it comes to you in the words of people. You draw it to yourself because the leech wants your energy.
mhm. Yeah.
And that's the only way it can survive. You don't need shame guilt energy.
Mhm,
You do not need it. You do not want it. It's only 100% dangerous. There's not 99%. No,
mhm,
a poison is a poison, right?
mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
There's no healthy poison. I've never found one.
No. And it
So
makes a lot of sense too, because of the way our brains are wired. When we are thinking of something or feel a certain way or have been telling ourselves something, we actually activate the reticular activating center that filters out everything other than what we're already thinking. So if we're feeling shame guilt, now we're going to filter out the world to only experience more shame guilt.
you're a genius. You're
Mhm.
a genius. They're
Yeah.
exactly right. Can I
Mhm.
quote you?
Yeah, oh, yeah, and it's so true. It goes down to, not only this is the energy sciences, but also the way we're actually wired. We're wired to be protective of ourselves. And if we view shame guilt to be the way in which we protect ourselves,
Then
we will
everything's going to be it.
perpetuate it.
Yeah.
And then we will attract more of that into our lives.
Because we're all, and I just read, well, I just received a notice, the Washington Post. Anytime anybody talks about shame, I receive it. So it was the only way we can get rid of the Republican judges is to shame them. I mean, shame is the pandemic for control,
Yeah.
as the Jewish mother said.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah.
want to control the population, what do? You shame them, you guilt them.
Mm.
You know, you're making people get sick from the virus if you don't get a vaccine. It's just all guilt, 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 guilt. Everything is guilt and shame. That's how we're raised. That's how the government teaches us, the religion. And, you know, I'm not blaming fault. It's just the way it is. And I'm in 15 countries and they all talk the same as we are talking right now.
It's like almost like a disempowerment movement. If we can
Of
disempower
course.
people, then we can control them. And
Yeah,
you can
powerful
see it in
people.
many
Yeah,
aspects of life.
you can't control powerful people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
And I mean, you can see in a lot of like, even in the medical field, you can see it in a lot of like jobs and everything. It's, and I'm not saying everything, but you can see that there's kind of this overarching feel that, oh, if this happens, then you'll feel like you're enough. If this happens, then you'll feel like you're enough. And you're always crawling and trying to get into this atmosphere where you have reached this unobtainable standard and you'll never actually get there. But if
you get there, you won't be happy either.
Exactly. Yeah. If we plant the seed that that's what you need to get to and then make it so unachievable, then you're just kind of living in this automatic life of never really knowing how to feel whole because you're always searching for something outside yourself.
So I believe I sent you the David Hawkins scale map of consciousness.
You did.
And this is very interesting because David Hawkins, who now lives in heaven, had each emotion to an energy amount. And the highest we can go as humans is enlightenment. And he said at 700,000, that's 7 with 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 5 zeros to the 30th power. That's 30 zeros after the 5. And there is such a number according to my mathematical brother-in-law. So that's enlightenment.
Yeah.
And then we have love and joy. It goes down. Joy and compassion, confidence. And then at 200, it turns negative. To anger, depression, anxiety. And guess what the last one is?
Shameguilt.
Shameguilt.
Yeah.
Comes in, well, he has 2 graphs, one's 10, one's 20. So it's the last energy at 10 that a human can embody and still be alive. And look at all of us walking around in guilt. How powerful are we?
Yeah.
If we're functioning at 10.
It makes a lot of sense. And even on like a smaller scale, I mean, like I'm a mother of 2 and I'm constantly like, oh, I feel bad. I can't play. I got to do this. Oh, I feel bad. And it's like, I catch myself always saying, I feel bad. I feel bad. And that's shame guilt, that I'm just not enough for every aspect of my life. And
so when you, we can, I want to hold that, but I want to finish the 10 is that's why suicide is always preceded by guilt, and suicide is such a huge problem at this time. So my suggestion is get out of guilt. You can feel regret, and you're a situation with children. Me too. I should have been, you know, I regret that I didn't do this. Regret is okay. I can be angry with myself. I should have been knowing that and all that. But don't feel guilt. Guilt has no solution. There is no solution. Now, regret leads to a solution. I had a client once who was in severe guilt because she could not help her mother heal from alcoholism. And her mother passed. And you know, as well as I know, unless a person wants to heal, you know, there's no way. So I suggested to her to feel regret that she couldn't help her mother. Well, within that framework, she developed programs for alcoholics and how to release themselves from it.
Wow.
If she stayed in guilt, she would only condemn herself. In regret, she blossomed.
And part of that too, from that story, is that creation is a higher energy power when you start creating. So you take that and make it into something that is higher energy.
Yeah.
which is
And
beautiful.
guilt at 10, you're not very creative because you know you're no good.
Yeah.
You know you're no good. You know, it isn't like I think. No, I was there. You know you're no good. And you have to call a friend, you know, to talk you out of it. And if you don't have any friends, call this Target or Walmart. At least you'll talk to a person. You got to change your energy vibration. And so that's what I wanted to share with people is don't be in guilt. Guilt is not okay. People say, oh, guilt is good. It's so much better than anger. I'm going, are you kidding me? Have you not seen the map of consciousness?
For someone who's listening to this, who feels like in that dark place, like I just feel constant shame guilt, like how would you recommend, I know reframing it, but how else would you recommend trying to get out of that stage and moving up the energy levels?
Just say no and call a friend. I mean, this is a 911. When you're in guilt, it's 911. Okay. You call a friend or go outside and talk to your neighbor if they're a good person. You know, some neighbors aren't. I got a bad neighbor. So, you know, if they're a good neighbor, or walk around, get out of the house, walk around, go to the playground, go to the movies, you know, go shopping. Look for shoes. I don't care what you do, but you've got to get out of guilt. And each person has their own way. Eat an ice cream cone. I mean, not that's the best thing, but you can't be, the worst thing you can do. You can eat a chocolate sundae, which is better than being in guilt. Okay. You just get out of guilt because guilt will give you some solutions. You can regret, you can be angry, you can be depressed, but you can't be guilt-ridden.
For some people, because I know, especially with a lot of people that I work with who've had an eating disorder, sometimes I
ate constantly to be happy.
Yeah. And that's why I wanted to ask you if if you feel guilt and shame, and then you use food and maybe go into a binge cycle, and then you feel more shame guilt off of that. How do you get out of that cycle? Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I would say at that moment, say, who's talking? I'm no good. Say to yourself, who's talking? Because you need to talk to your inner critic. The inner critic is talking. Like I'm talking to you. You would say, you're guilty. And I'll say, who's talking? Who's talking around here? And then you might get a name. And then you work with the inner critic, because the inner critic job is to shame and guilt you. Because he was raised by the Jewish mother. And that's all he ever taught. You were 2 years old and you can't pick up scissors and a saw. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't, but you're 2 years old. Now you're 22 or 42 or 52. But your inner critic doesn't know that.
Yeah. And is all our subconscious messages are wired between ages 0 and 7. So anything that we've been presented with as a child sticks with us until we do question that.
Say, who's talking?
Yeah.
You don't
and having
say,
that checkpoint.
You don't say, shut up. You say someone that's shaming you, you say, no, no. But when yourself is shaming yourself, you say, who's talking? Who's talking? Now, you may not get an answer, or write it like in your diary. Who's talking to me about this? What is your name? And then you'll get a name. It's true. Also, on my website, I have a pamphlet, Now is the Time. And these are light readings I received from Spirit that raise your vibration just by reading it. And it's free. All you do is press the book and you can print it out or read it on my website. And it will help bring your energy up. It's not a one, do this, do this. It's a reading from Spirit of different vibrational energy.
Yeah, I can put the link in the show notes too. So for anyone listening.
So that's what you do if you're downing yourself.
Yeah.
And then, you know, try, and there's a, I'm Good Film. I teach you how to talk to your inner critic. And it's free. It's called I'mGoodFilm.com.
Interesting. Yeah.
Turn that on. Turn that on instead of guilting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because of so many people just go through life on autopilot and never think to question those messages that they have going on all the time. And then those subconscious thoughts direct your life. They lead you in a trajectory of either something that serves you or something that hinders you based on what those messages are. And I really, I agree until you start questioning what you're telling yourself, if it's not serving what your values are and what your purpose
To
is.
say who's talking, you don't tell yourself to shut up. You tell other people to be quiet.
Mm-hmm.
You tell no. You cannot tell yourself no. You just say, who's talking?
Mm-hmm.
Who's talking? We got to talk. Can we talk? Who's
Mm-hmm.
talking? And
Yeah.
they want to talk. So now my inner critic, who, well, he's King. His name is King.
Hmm.
And he changed his job.
Mm-hmm.
He now goes around the universe finding people like you to talk to.
Hmm.
He gave up the shame guilt words.
Hmm.
Now, am I ever in that? Yeah, of course I do get ones, but it's 90% less than it used to be. I mean, it's like such a difference in every aspect of my life. And yes, I ate to be happy when I was a kid and when I was an adult. Luckily, I have this metabolism that's like, I can eat 3 hamburgers and not gain weight. I mean, like, but that didn't help me out to eat all that mess. Yeah. And so I talked to anger inside of me, and anger was the one that wanted to eat all the time. Yeah. And eventually we made peace together, and his name, he wouldn't have a name. He said, I said, so I'll call you No Name. And so after a couple months of communicating with my anger part, he said, my name is Unstoppable. And I went, wow, that goes along with my life. I've just been unstoppable. And I said, thank you so much for keeping me going. But you were keeping me going in a negative way. Now you're keeping me going in a positive way.
Have you always been intuitive, or is this something that you've worked toward?
I've always been intuitive.
Yeah. Yeah. Has it evolved from where you were before?
I never know a time that I wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I lived in Sedona for a while, and really that's when I start writing and all that. I didn't need any stimulus, but when I did, I went, it really opened. But I discovered that the more healing I did, the more psychic and intuitive I became, because we are all intuitive. Excuse me.
It's just how open you are to it and being receptive to it.
It's how much shame, guilt you got rid of.
Yeah.
People say, oh, you're not open. We're always open to it. Either we're getting shame, guilt energy or love light energy. It's really simple. It's not complicated.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing, when I was reading your bio too, I think that was fascinating. And I completely am a believer of that, is that as far as health, we're always looking for the next fix, the next thing to help us, the next treatment, especially with chronic pain, always searching outside ourselves to do that. But until we figure out our root cause of all the dysregulation, anything that we apply to our system will be just in vain. We have to really heal from the inside out. So can you just talk on that in your own experience, when we heal from the inside out, what a difference that is versus trying to just reach out for the next treatment?
Well, and I did reach out for the next treatment because I needed physical health. You know, I mean, I couldn't breathe. I couldn't go outside. So we had a 911 thing. And once I got to the point where I was a little bit more stable,
yeah,
that was it. I couldn't go any further with my health, even though I still had the broken jaw and this and that. But there wasn't any readings coming forth. I had to heal emotionally to go further. And that's when I discovered that the shame guilt is the reason that all this was happening. And then I start talking within myself. And when I found, you know, Deborah, my depression, and King, the inner critic, we talked like we're talking here. And then the shame guilt was more visible, so I could take it and get rid of it. Because shame guilt needs to be just taken out of us. We don't heal shame guilt. We kick it out. You can't kick out, you can't heal a negative energy.
Yeah.
Well, maybe in some, if you're 700,000 energy, you can just do stuff like that. But,
Yeah.
you know, I have a cell phone in my hand,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't say, now you're an apple. I
Yeah.
don't have that. And I'm sure we can do that,
Mm-hmm.
but we can't do it yet because people say, oh, I just say, get rid of all the shame. I say, you can't do that yet. I think it's possible,
Mm-hmm.
but not today. You're in the lowest frequency that a human can have.
Mm-hmm.
If
Yeah.
you're in shame guilt, you have no energy to heal yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Just get out of it. Be depressed.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Anything's better than guilt. And that's my
Mm-hmm.
message today. And remember Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz?
Yep. Yes. And she always had her ability, right?
And she
Yeah.
was walking to see the wizard. Oh, so frightened.
Yeah.
And what does Toto do? He
Take
pulls the
pull the
curtain back.
camera. Yeah. The curtain. Yeah. Rather. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then what do we see?
Mm-hmm.
A
It's
little
just a
old man, all
Yeah.
the gray, with this big silver machine
Mm-hmm.
and a turn knob, puffing out green smoke.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, shame guilt is a puff of green smoke
Mm-hmm.
that's gotten way too much information and way too much now. It's gotten way too much on people's mind. Shame guilt doesn't need to exist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure too, it's like the more it gets out of control, the more you think you will never escape it. And just like they thought the wizard was just so huge and insurmountable. It's like to remove yourself from that and see yourself from a different perspective.
Exactly. Mindset change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like when you're in the thick of it, it's hard to see anything outside of it. But if you can just take a step out, then you can see that this is not the end of everything just being stuck like this. There is opportunity for change and growth, but you
Yeah.
just have to see
So,
that.
the main thing is that when you're in guilt and shame, you can't get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I said, when you feel like you're getting into it, or you feel like you're feeling the guilt, start doing something then. Don't wait till you're comatose.
Mm-hmm.
And you understand what I mean, because when you're in so much guilt, you're frozen.
Yeah, it's part of your nervous
frozen.
system response. It's like that fight, flight, or freeze. And freeze is the response where you've been stuck in this stress response for so long, you basically plummet down. You feel like you
really can't. And there's no logic.
No, it shuts down your prefrontal cortex. The whole rational part of your brain goes away. So you can't think.
That's why I say when you start saying, oh, that's very shameful, that's very guilt-ridden. Mm-hmm. Call your friend then. Mm-hmm. There's no shame in it because everybody's in that place. Mm-hmm. But when the two of you talk, it lays your vibration and it helps the person you're talking to. Mm-hmm. You're not infringing upon them. You're helping them and helping yourself. And you can both read my words on my website.
Mm-hmm. For someone who feels like they live this every day where they experience shame guilt, and maybe they don't have the best support system, or maybe they're in an environment where it's perpetuating this feeling, what would you say to that person as far as maybe setting boundaries or moving outside of that situation?
Well, you can do boundaries and all that, but still you're fighting. You're always fighting until you release the shame guilt. Boundaries are good. Forgiveness is good. And I'm not saying none of that's that, but it's not going to lead you to healing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So when you're in that situation, if you like, I do sessions with people one-on-one, but you can also get a lot of information on my website. I have all these podcasts and my films, and that can set you up to a different way of looking at things. And of course, schedule a consult with me. That I charge for, but everything on my website is free. So just go on my website and start reading some of the things, and I will help you with that. But in my consult, I teach you how to release the shame guilt. You don't have to come to me all the time. I'm teaching you how to self-heal because that's the way we are made.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
made
and
to heal ourselves, but
absolutely.
we never got the right book.
Mhm.
We got the wrong book.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. And just having that mindset, because I'm very much about that too, teaching you to how to help yourself versus me doing it for you, because that's the only way we can empower our system is if we learn how to help ourselves and then
Yes.
adapt that to
So
whatever
get the
you
right
need.
book, and don't get the book that says,
Mhm.
well, you can manage your depression. You
Mm,
can manage. No, you can't. Well,
yeah.
you can, but it's still, what a waste.
Yeah, it's
It's
the same
like,
thing with pain management. There's management of pain, but then you have the expectation it'll always be there. And if that's the expectation, then you will live with pain forever. And it's a tough, it is a little nuance with that. Same thing with shame guilt. When you talk about managing it, it's the expectation you'll always live with it. And we have to
and you
learn
always
how to
fight
not.
with it.
Mhm.
Now, I look at that as I'm living in my house, and every time it rains, I have 2 or 3 leaks in the ceiling. So
Mhm.
after the rain, I have to clean up the rainwater in the kitchen and the
Mhm.
bedroom and the other floors downstairs.
Mhm.
Okay, it's all clean, everything's fine. Then it
Mhm.
rains again, and I got to clean up the kitchen, the bedroom, and downstairs again.
Mhm.
Wouldn't it be smarter to cover up the holes in the roof?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
wouldn't it be smarter to get rid of shame guilt?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And just using that analogy too, it's like you don't realize how much is affecting you until things in your life are not going as well. So it's like when it's a sunshiny day, it doesn't matter if you have a leak in your roof because you won't notice it's growing great. But it's those times that's important to fix it and before it gets to become a situation where now you do notice it on a rainy day or not so good day. So yeah, I mean, I love that analogy for many reasons. It's
And
absolutely
that's it.
true.
So
Mhm.
it's simple, but you still have to learn what is shame guilt and how to get rid of it. And that's what I teach. That's what I
Mhm.
do. And I
Yeah.
help people to get out of that situation of the shame guilt. And I'm still doing it. Oh, got rid of, oh, they've said that to me. You know, it's a constant thing because we're living in this environment right now that's
Mhm.
huge.
Mhm.
People are shaming, guilting for control,
Mhm.
like they don't even know it.
Yeah.
It's
Mhm.
automatic.
Right. Yeah. And it just perpetuates the cycle of everything until you can really bring light to it and stop it from growing. For sure. Yeah. For anyone who wanted to get in touch with you, do you mind just sharing your website and where they can find you?
It's Lois Hollis, like on
Mhm.
your uh, podcast. It's
Mhm.
LoisHollis.com. And I
Mhm.
have 3 other websites connected to that.
Mhm. Okay, great.
So it's the source of a lot of information.
Mhm.
And I'm always available for consults.
Mhm.
We can work things out. And people usually go very fast, 2 or 3,
Mhm.
and they know how to do it. We got the wrong book. That's all I keep saying.
Yeah. You need
We
a
read the wrong
roadmap to
book.
freedom, not roadmap to more guilt, shame guilt.
Right. But
Yeah.
I can't believe they wrote that.
Yeah, it's a shame to see that written, but hopefully
It
that
makes sense, doesn't it?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely generational shame guilt for sure that continues unless somebody is doing the work to break the cycle. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I will definitely include your website in the show notes for anyone who is listening. That way you can get access to all those great resources and contact Lois. And thank you again so much for bringing your insight and just
Thank you.
sharing such a valuable topic that so many people are impacted by in so many different ways. So I really thank you for bringing awareness to that.
Thank you so much for the
Mhm.
offer, and no shame guilt zone.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you again. And for anyone listening, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the podcast. Please leave any reviews or questions that you may have for Lois or myself. And thank you again for spending your precious time with me.